Welcome to Bed Crime Stories podcast. I'm your host, T. If you like all things true crime, if you like it delivered in a peaceful, tranquil manner, if you like it clear and concise without drama, then I highly recommend you subscribe. And if you like what you hear, please smash the like button. It's a free way you can help. And now, without further ado, let's dig in. Well, hello there. How y'all doing? It's Sunday. Hope you're good. Gonna talk a little Jenn Soto. I thought I'd try something a little different today for the second half of her interview on April 18th of 2024. I'm going to play you snippets and then I will discuss them.
Did she ever have sleepovers? Like have friends come over and sleep over?
Slumber parties, no.
Did she ever go and attend any?
No.
Is there any particular reason? I mean, she's a 12-year-old girl on the cusp of being 13.
Yeah, I've been very uncomfortable with sleepovers just because I know what can happen. Anything can happen in a sleepover.
Well, then you can be the host house like we kind of were. You never hosted any sleepovers for her friends?
For her friends, no.
Did she ask about it?
Yeah, she did ask.
Was it probably a source of contention or arguments?
It was, I guess what was the source of argument is she wanted to really sleep over her best friend's house, and I just kept saying, no, you never know what could happen. I don't know the dad, I don't know the brother, I don't know anybody there. Like, I don't know what could happen to you, so, just afraid of her getting assaulted.
I think it's very interesting that Jenn Soto had such an extreme concern about Maddie going to her friend's house where there was a father and a brother for fear that Maddie might get SA'd over there. This would imply that Jenn was protecting Maddie wherever she spent the night, including in her own home. But we know that that isn't the case because Jenn did allow Maddie to sleep in the same bed with Stephan Sterns, the man who SA'd her for years and is also charged with her death. This is why I don't think Jenn is being completely honest here. I mean, she said that she thought Sterns was grooming Maddie for SA, and it sort of sounds like she was aware of it. So did she not want Maddie to be SA'd by yet another male?
What's her normal routine for getting ready for bed?
We give her meds.
Sorry, take your time.
We get ready for bed. I'd give her medication. She would get in the shower.
Take a long shower, I understand.
Like an hour plus, yeah.
Okay.
And she loved it. She'd get out, she'd get dressed, she'd let her hair towel dry for a while, and then she would brush it. We would watch some TV. She'd probably have a snack before bed as well.
Did you hear how Jenn got upset at that particular question? It seemed to stir up her emotions about the loss of Maddie. Maybe she's reliving fond moments from when they did get ready for bed together. This interview was about a month and a half after Madeline's death, so Jenn would have had time to get used to life without Maddie in the townhome. Could it be guilt over what has happened and knowing that she put her daughter in the path of a predator?
Her nighttime uniforms, I mean, everybody kind of has their pajamas, but they're not necessarily pajamas. What was her routine nightwear?
She really liked wearing shorts. So she had a few pajama outfits, but she really liked wearing shorts and baggy t-shirts.
Okay. How about her routine getting ready for school in the morning? What's that about?
We'd wake up. The alarm would start ringing around 7:30. We'd snooze it up until 8 o'clock. Then she'd get up. She'd get dressed. And then she'd lay back down in bed while she would wait for me to make her breakfast.
So she's a breakfast eater?
Yes.
Okay.
She'd have breakfast. Then she would start, with brushing her hair, brushing her teeth, putting on makeup. I would give her ADHD medications for school.
Is that every day or just school days?
Then there was a redaction. They took something out of the interview, and then they leap into when you take Maddie to school, when do you leave, what's the normal routine.
So it sounds like you're heading out like 8:45 or 9?
Yes.
And it takes like, what'd you say, 15, 20 minutes to get to school?
Yes. I made good time. I wasn't paying attention to the clock.
Okay. Did Madeline ever have like effects from taking the hydroxyzine in the morning? Like still be kind of sluggish?
Yes.
How often would that occur? Was that like every morning or not every morning?
Not every morning. If we happen to give her medication later than normal than routine, that would happen. But,
Okay. And were there ever any instances where she had taken too much of the medicine? Perhaps you and Stefan had given her medicine, not knowing that the other person had?
yes, that's happened once
How
before.
Just once or more?
I want to say once.
Okay. Were you taking medicinal marijuana in pill form at any point for THC?
Yes.
And what do those pills or tablets or capsules look like?
They're purple capsules.
Did you ever suspect or confront Stefan about giving those medications to Madeline?
No.
So during this incident where Madeline had been double dosed with hydroxyzine, do you recall any conversation you had with Stefan and inquiring as to whether or not he had accidentally given her any of your THC?
That hadn't occurred to me. I had asked him the one morning Maddie wouldn't wake up and get ready for school, and she was just out of it. I assumed it was medication related. But I didn't realize, I'm like, did this one medication hit her too hard because we gave it to her late? I called poison control. I needed to see what would happen. Because at this point, I think I had gotten Stephan to admit that he gave her a second dose of the sleeping meds as well, because he thought I had given it to her in the first place.
Okay.
But that was with hydroxyzine. I didn't know anything about THC, the marijuana.
I'm just asking you.
Oh.
I'm asking if you remember having that conversation, because there is a conversation on your phone about you were relaying that Madeline said that she suspected that it was different bigger pills, and you relayed that to Stefan and had a conversation with him. And if you don't remember it because it was a year ago, that's fine. My next question is, you have 2 female roommates?
Yes.
And one of them has a child, a son, that sleeps part-time over there?
Yes.
And so my understanding is they're kind of, it's like I don't know what to call it, like a bed and breakfast. There's numbers on the doors upstairs?
Yeah, I don't know. To make it easier for the roommates, I just labeled each bedroom.
So they're in 2 and 3.
I sure hope that the investigators have checked out that little boy who spent time at Jenn Soto's townhome. Let's pray to God that that little boy didn't turn up in any of Stefan's photos and videos. So here's this townhome. You've got Jenn Soto living in it, sometimes Stephan Sterns, Maddie, and 2 female roommates, one with a son. And you mean to tell me that none of these people noticed anything about the relationship between Maddie and Stefan, or if they did, that they didn't raise any alarms? The more I think about this townhome, it sounds like everybody spent a lot of time in their own bedrooms and maybe only went out to the kitchen. Half of the living room was taken up with the makeshift bedroom for Madeline, but she didn't spend the nights in that area. Sounds like maybe she did her homework there, but she definitely didn't sleep there. It saddens me that Jenn didn't cough up extra rent to make sure that Madeline could have guest room number 4 for herself, or that her father, who owns the townhome, didn't think it was important for his granddaughter to have that room. Of course, it's also possible that there simply wasn't enough money Maybe the father doesn't have that much money and he needed the rent income. But can you imagine living in a home where you really don't have your own space with walls and a door, and you can't get away from all these people, including your mother's sometimes boyfriend, who is into child P and the SA of children? No wonder she wanted to run out to the woods. She would have had a lot of space around her, some freedom to breathe, to think, to doodle, to do whatever, to get away from Stephan Sterns. These people were living like college roommates, basically.
Now, bedroom number 4, at one point you told the police that your sister was staying with you, and that's why the sleeping arrangements were as they were. Was your sister ever staying with you, or did I misunderstand what you said?
No, my sister wasn't staying with me.
Okay. So let me ask you this. At what point did Madeline's bedroom kind of become the living room? When did that setup start?
I think as soon as a few months into us moving back into that townhouse.
And when would that have been?
Let's say June of sometime in 2022, but I'm not sure when.
Okay.
So it sounds like Jenn lied about her sister sometimes living in that townhome with her and staying in room number 4. She must have done that in an earlier interview. Here in this one, we know she has immunity as long as she tells the truth this time. So the chief of this homicide unit is saying that as long as you tell the truth today, on April 18th of 2024, even if what you say today contradicts what you told us earlier, we will not charge you with lying to us earlier, but you have to tell us the truth today. If you lied to us today, then we can charge you.
It's my understanding that it's December of 2022 that you and Stefan kind of break up,
Yes.
but he still remains in the townhome.
Yes.
Why is that?
So even though you're broken up, I still considered him one of my best friends. I wanted to give him the opportunity to live there, and he had gotten a job at Disney that was doing well.
Okay.
And I didn't want him to continue to lose that because he had been struggling for a long time to get a job or do anything with his own mental health issues.
Okay.
So I just wanted to give him a chance to do something, be something. So
Did he pay rent?
yes.
How much rent did he pay?
$600 a month.
All right.
Did you hear how long Jenn paused before coming up with an answer to say, so even though you're broken up, you still have Stefan living there? I get the feeling that Stefan and Jenn accepted each other's mental health struggles and that this is something they had in common.
So in December of 2022, kind of when the breakup happens, prior to that, what were the sleeping arrangements in your home? Was he sleeping in your bedroom as a couple?
Yes.
So who's in bedroom number 4, if anybody?
I think that room remained empty for a while. For a little bit, there was another roommate there, but it remained empty for the most part.
And were your female roommates already there in 2 and 3?
Yes.
Why doesn't Madeline have that bedroom 4?
I wanted her to have bedroom 4, but my dad really wanted rent. That whole unit that I live in is owned by my father.
Okay. So let me ask you this. Do you pay your father anything to live there, or does he just handle collecting the rent from your rentees, lessees, whatever they are?
I pay him rent as well.
Okay. What do you pay for the rent?
My portion of the rent was $400 a month.
All right. And what did the 2 female roommates pay?
$850 and $650.
So Jenn's father, Juan, owns the townhome. He gives her a much lesser rent than her 2 female roommates. She pays $400. They pay $850 and $650, I think she said. And then bedroom number 4, when Stefan is living there, he pays $600. But we know that his father, Chris, is the person who was actually paying that. So we have two grown-ups subsidized by their parents, both Jenn Soto and Stephan Sterns. So they both have that in common as well. Two grown-ups who can't seem to take full care of themselves by themselves. And it may be because of their mental health issues. Jenn Soto has said that she's bipolar, and we know that Stephan Sterns suffered from anxiety and depression.
Has to leave. Have you had any conversation with Maddie that Mommy isn't together with Stefan anymore and this is kind of the ways of the world? Do you have that conversation with her?
She had, by June, she figured it out already, so she knew we weren't together or anything like that. So she, by December, yeah, she had already known he was leaving, and
okay.
But that was okay.
Why is he coming back to visit after he's out?
We're still friendly with each other at this point.
So there's Jenn pausing again when asked, why is Stefan back now? Why was he back, in February? She really needed to pause and think about that. Just had a terrible thought. Do you think that if Stephan Sterns was selling any of these photos and videos on the dark web of Maddie, that perhaps he was sharing some of the proceeds with Jenn Soto? I mean, she did have an appointment for Botox on the day that Madeline went missing. It was only Botox supposedly for $350, which I don't know where you can get Botox for that amount anymore, but she said she canceled it because she didn't want to spend the money. When I first saw Jenn Soto, I just assumed she's living in this house, her father owns it, he's charging her a limited amount of rent, they've got these other roommates, her dad is eager to have that fourth bedroom rented. I just assumed that Jenn was living on a very tight budget and therefore there would be no extra money for things like Botox. I read that she was getting the Botox for migraines, not for cosmetic purposes, but either way, it still is an extra expense. I mean, if she's paying $400 to her dad for the master suite, maybe he would have let her have room number 4 for Maddie for, say, $350, the same amount as that Botox. You know what I'm saying? Where were Jenn's priorities?
Christmas is coming up, and we wanted to spend Christmas together. So he comes up for a few days during Christmas. And then he does visit a few more times after that, but for the day. And it's to pick up packages. He keeps getting mail delivered to my house, packages. So he just comes up and picks them up.
Two things. Why is Stefan having mail delivered 2.5 hours away from his parents' home where he was living at the time and having it sent to Jenn's house? Why is that? Is there something in those deliveries he doesn't want his parents to stumble upon? Something that Jenn Soto would already know about? Maybe Stefan doesn't want his parents to know that he's spending money on things that maybe they wouldn't approve of, especially since they were having to pay his rent when he was living there. Is he afraid his parents will stop subsidizing him if they know that he has this extra spending money? Or do those deliveries have something to do with selling photos and videos on the dark web, and he doesn't want to risk his parents discovering anything? This is pure speculation on my part. We don't know if he was actually doing this, but it does seem like he had extra spending money that his father, Chris, couldn't really account for. The second thing is, did Jenn want Stefan over there because she was lonely and she wanted somebody in her life? I believe that's what her parents have said, that they felt like she knew that Stefan was not an ideal boyfriend, but she didn't want to be alone.
And when he comes to visit after he's been kind of kicked out, is he paying rent, or how is this working, or is he just coming to visit?
He's just coming to visit.
Is your father making any arrangements to rent bedroom number 4? Because this is his income that he's losing.
Yeah, we had it. We had like an ad posted to see if we can get any renters. So we were trying to rent it out, but then we had to stop.
Did you hear Jenn say that they had an ad out because they wanted to rent it, but then they had to stop. The detective doesn't ask a follow-up question like, well, what do you mean by that? Why did you need to stop posting that room? Why did you have to stop thinking that you could have another roommate in that room?
Ended up renting room number 4. Is Stefan gonna still come up and visit you and sleep in your bed?
I don't know. I hadn't even thought of it at that point.
At one point you told investigators that Stefan was quote-unquote stuck down there until they could afford for him to come back. Were there plans for him to come back?
We had discussed him coming back and living with me. We weren't sure if temporarily or like for me to help him out with a place for a little bit before he can find his own place and move out. Or we were also considering talking about living together as like a companionship. Living with my best friend who's helping me out with my child.
I just don't know how Jenn can reconcile knowing that Stefan was grooming her child and SAing her and then still call him her best friend and that he's helping her with her child. He's helping her? He's helping her on the one hand in some very small way, but he's doing all this damage to Maddie psychologically and physically. Was Stephan Sterns' help worth it?
A lot of the reason your relationship fizzled off with Stefan was that your antidepressants.
And right after that, this audio is cut off because I believe they're talking about Jenn Soto's lack of desire, shall we say, because of her medications.
You had moved on to other people, had you not?
Yes.
And so despite having moved on with other people, you were still having Stefan come up and visit, and there were plans to cohabitate with him again, potentially.
Possibly, yes.
So it sounds like Jenn and Stefan couldn't really let go of each other. They couldn't really fully break it off. They have these little breakups and then they get back together. But it's never long-lasting, it's never permanent. Maddie is subjected to all this instability, as well as Jenn seeing other men, it sounds like.
Maddie had the opportunity to go visit her biological father in the fall, out in Texas. Is that a yes?
Yes.
All right. Do you remember texting the biological father, hope nobody touches Maddie or tries shit or films her under the bathroom? You remember sending that text?
No.
Isn't that interesting? She's concerned about letting Maddie go stay with her biological father because something might happen to Maddie over there as well. Somebody may be sticking a camera under the bathroom door, which is something we know that Stefan did. He did it apparently with one of Jenn's female roommates. He also did it with one of his former male roommates when that guy's girlfriend was staying over and went into the bathroom to take a shower. So she's worried about all the things that are probably going on in her own home, and she's bringing this up. It sounds like either to prevent Maddie from seeing the biological father or to somehow raise alarm bells for some reason or let him know that she's aware of what might happen over there. It's like she's projecting what's going on in her own home with her on-again, off-again boyfriend who has a history of this stuff. She's projecting into Madeline's biological father. Was she trying to let the biological father know what was going on without actually coming out and saying it? I don't think so, but I'm just putting it out there.
Orange County Sheriff's Office back in February?
No.
Because that seems like a very oddly specific thing to text the father. So you didn't know anything about what was going on filming underneath bathroom doors?
No idea. I don't know why I would have texted them.
June 16th of last year, about 9:30 p.m.
Oh, actually, I can't actually think back to that.
Okay. What?
I think around the time that Maddie was going to fly out to Houston, there had been an airline person that had gone into the bathroom and placed their camera on the toilet to film. And I remember thinking, I don't want Maddie, I'm afraid of Maddie being alone on the plane because what if an attendant does that to her? Says, hold on, let me fix something in the bathroom. And in reality, they're setting up a camera because this did happen to a girl. So I want to say it may have been concerns over that.
Yeah, I'm not believing this. I think Jenn is trying to come up with excuses. And again, this is something that I don't think the detectives can prove either is true or false when she's saying, I think I did that because I read an article about something. For a mother who is so concerned about her daughter possibly getting SA'd by a friend's father or brother or somebody on an airplane, why wasn't she watching more carefully what was going on in her own home? Or was she? And was it okay with her? I mean, I have to think these detectives are thinking, this is a bunch of BS. This cannot be the truth. She doesn't remember sending these things. She doesn't remember these texts. She's so concerned about Maddie's safety.
On June 16th of last year at 9:30 p.m. and 27 seconds, you texted Stefan this: Maddie's no longer sleeping with me. I can't risk it. What does that mean?
Jenn says she has no idea why she texted that. Come on. I do not believe that. It sounds like she was concerned both maybe about Stephan Sterns or the new men that she was seeing, and she didn't want to risk that. Yet another male introduced into her bed where Maddie might spend the night. Can't risk it because Maddie's now got her menstrual cycle.
Was Maddie sleeping with you?
Often, all the time.
Well, you keep on saying often versus all the time. Was it 100% of the time or not 100% of the time?
If she wasn't with my mom and she was with me, then yeah, she was sleeping with me.
Okay. And if she's at mom, she's 100% of the time sleeping with mom?
With my mom, or she does have her own room, I guess. Like there's another spare room she could use, but for the most part, she prefers to sleep with my mom.
So when Stefan was living over there and he was spending time in Jenn's bed and Maddie was also in there, how did the intimacy work between Jenn and Stefan with Maddie right there in the bed? Did they knock her out for that? Or was Maddie privy to all of that? Was she a third participant? I mean, I hate to even bring that up, but I am wondering.
Now, my understanding is that you had some sort of period tracker that you kept track of Madeline's period with?
I had a calendar app that I would write what days she would get her period, yeah.
And obviously, Madeline doesn't have a job, so she's not going out and buying the products that she would need if she had her period, right? You would have to do that for her? Mm-hmm. Is that a yes?
Yes.
So, do you remember her using any of those products at all in February? Because I assume you take the trash out, or does she take the trash out, or how does all this work?
I take the trash out. In February, no, I didn't notice her using any of her feminine hygiene products.
Did you have any conversations with her about that?
No, but I didn't notice until after everything.
So Jenn is the person tracking Maddie's period. One, why is she doing that? You guys need to let me know. Is that normal for a mother to be tracking the daughter's period? Back in the day when it was me, I was the one tracking it. I don't remember sharing that with my mother. I might have had to ask my dad to go buy me stuff because he's the guy who did the grocery shopping. Yes, very embarrassing. I would have to ask my dad to buy me supplies. And I remember being so mortified that I couldn't be there to buy them for myself. I just was way too embarrassed that somebody might see that. That the guy bagging the groceries might be somebody that I went to high school with. I do have the impression that mothers today are a lot more open with their daughters about all of this stuff than they were when I was that age. So maybe a mother tracking a daughter's period is normal, or maybe it's not, and it's because Jenn knew what was going on with Stephan Sterns. I'm going to assume that Stephan Sterns wasn't being careful, and I say this because in the photographs, the detectives noticed certain things about his private parts, and they used those certain things to identify Stefan as the perpetrator in all of the photos and the videos. They mentioned a dark spot, like a dark freckle. I know it's gross. I'm sorry I'm talking about this. They also mentioned some area that was very, very pink. Gross. I know. I'm sorry. And I'm going to admit to you that when I heard about that particularly pink area, my first thought was, oh my God, this guy's been overusing that. It's from overusage. And on that not so pleasant image, I'm going to stop and let that all percolate with you. Please do me a favor, smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you next time on Bed Crime Stories.